Colton Herta, I'm a big fan of Colton Herta. Like everybody else, I was probably kind of convinced when I saw him on slicks in the wet at the Indy race this year in IndyCar. Anyway, the news is that he will be racing for AlphaTauri next year. And that is because Pierre Gasly will be racing for Alpine next year. So it was an interesting deal to put together because basically AlphaTauri said, or Red Bull said to Pierre Gasly, okay, we will release you providing Alpine and Gasly together can ensure that we can have Colton Herta without any issues. And the issue wasn't the super license. I've always been fairly sceptical about super license. You know, if the guy's got money and backing, he'll get a super license if he's got talent as well. And Colton Herta will get a super license for sure. The issue was that Zak Brown had a contract with Colton Herta, as we know. Contract with several drivers, actually, including Alex Palou as well. And so the deal had to be done with McLaren. So here's Zak Brown, on the one hand, having to pay Daniel Ricciardo not to race. And on the other hand, he's getting paid by Alpine and Gasly, let's call them a group, to release Colton Herta so he can go into the AlphaTauri. And that's what's happened. So next year, it will be Colton Herta and Yuki Tsunoda, two young chargers, if ever there were any. Good luck, Franz Tost, I say. And in there, and there'll be two Frenchmen in the Alpine. So Lando will have his new teammate, which is obviously going to be Oscar Piastri, and Yuki Tsunoda will effectively be, I don't know, will he be team leader at AlphaTauri? I don't know. It's bizarre to think of. I like Franz Tost's answer when he was asked in the press conference at Zandvoort what he thought of Colton Herta, and he said, I don't know. I've never seen him. I've never seen him drive. And he said, what, have you ever met him? No. Have you ever spoken to him? No. I just take them and educate them. So I thought that was quite, you know, we'll talk about a clean sheet of paper anyway. And he says it like it is, doesn't he, Franz? That's what I like about Franz. Really good. You know, Zach has got this thing now where he seems to be signing up every young driver he possibly can that he rates. And I think this comes under the heading of Frank Williams, always saying, I don't really care what else goes on in the team, but I want to be the guy that chooses the drivers and does the engine deal. I want to do all the nice, cool things that are fun. And he always did, really. The only other thing I'd say about all of that is that if I was Zach, which I'm not, quite clearly, I would actually be running Colton Herta alongside Lando Norris instead of Oscar Piastri for two reasons. One, I think it would be really good for McLaren. I think McLaren would benefit more and do more with having an American driver in their team than any other team in Formula One, because they're pretty good, aren't they? In terms of the merch and the social media and everything else, they're pretty good. So I think they would do a really good job, or would have done a really good job with Colton Herta in a McLaren. That's one reason. And secondly, I think he will would have fitted in better with Lando Norris. I think Lando Norris, I thought it was interesting when he was asked at the weekend, you know, what he thinks about Oscar Piastri, and he said, I've never really met him, spoken to him twice. He wasn't dismissive by any means, because Lando's not that sort of guy. But, you know, Lando doesn't need all that stuff going on the other car there, does he? How good is this guy? Is he the next Ayrton Senna? You know, he needs Daniel Ricciardo. And if you're going to Daniel Ricciardo, Colton Herta wouldn't have been a bad teammate for him either. And as I keep saying, if you've got Lewis Hamilton in your team, if you've got Charles Leclerc, if you've got Max Verstappen, and I would say if you've got Lando Norris, you don't need to put these super quick, aggravating guys in the other car. You need You need a Clay Regazzoni. You need a Sergio Perez. You need a Mike Spence. You need, Carlos Sainz, really. I mean, yeah, he's sort of mellowing down into being a really good support driver to Charles Leclerc. So that's the only thing. They're the only two things I wouldn't do that Zach's doing. But everything else, yeah, you know, sign him here, sign him there. Although I do think he's got some legal drama going on now with Alex Palou, with Chip Ganassi, who also has a contract with him. I think had the contract with him before Zach had. A little bit like the whole Oscar Piastri situation. Speaking of which, yeah, there is news on that, as there is inevitably going to be. And the news is, from the other side of the fence, I've always been saying loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. Regardless, it's kind of irrelevant what loophole was there, and he is at McLaren. There was obviously a loophole, but loyalty counts for a lot. It doesn't count for a lot anymore. Turns out that, as far as I understand it now, Alpine drew up a heads of agreement letter, if you like, with the Piastri lot. And that included F2, testing, simulator work, and a guaranteed race drive in 2023 in the Alpine if there was a seat, and if not, in another team, which we now know would have been Williams, and a race seat in the Alpine in 2024. The problem was that document was never signed by either party, incredibly. So I hear. This is only hearsay, but as I understand it, that document was never signed. Now, I would still say, on that basis, that because Alpine followed through on everything that they said they were going to do in that letter, i.e. they did the F2, they did the testing, they did all the simulation work, they did everything, and much more than that, they actually gave them the race seat for 2023. I wouldn't say I would do the same in their position, because there you got Red Bull signing every young driver to the minute detail of the text, every full stop counts, contracts are everything. Of course, I would like to think that we both, you and I, would have got it signed both ways. But even if we hadn't, and even if the lawyers in France or whatever it was were taking 2 months to gestate and actually get the thing drawn up into a proper contract, I would have assumed, and as Frank Williams always said, assumption is the biggest cause of problems in the world, I would have assumed that because we'd delivered on everything, that Piastri would deliver on everything. But quite clearly, he didn't think that way. And when they kept saying, well, where's the contract, and nothing happened, they went off and just signed a deal with Zach, which they felt obviously legally bound, able to do, because the heads of agreement hadn't been signed. And that's, that's sad, isn't it?